because it's possible that what is happening right now is totally normal. It's a part of your normal body fluctuations, and it's not an emergency, and it doesn't necessarily require a plan. However, if when you're curious about it, you realize, oh, I have been eating more, I have been exercising less. I know that at this season, there isn't a whole lot that I can do about it, but what is something reasonable that I could do? Welcome to the Biking Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Stacy Smith, and I lost 50 pounds riding my bike by focusing on what my body can do. Now, I teach other women how to do the same. I am obsessed with completely flipping the script on weight loss so that we can work out to feel good and feel strong. If you are ready to stop dieting, learn how to appreciate your body, and have fun riding your bike, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I always look forward to this time that we have together every week. I just can't wait to dive into this week's topic with you, because today we're going to talk all about what to do and what not to do when we gain a little bit of weight. So we've all been there. We've been in that situation where the scale goes up and we're starting to freak out and our brain starts to just run away with us. We don't know what to do. We're going to break that all down today. So I can't wait to dive in. But first, I just wanted to let you know, just in case you don't know already, that I have a completely free lose weight biking quick start guide that you can use to just jumpstart your biking weight loss today. All you have to do is go to www.sassy.com. That's www.sassy.com/guide. And you can download the free guide. It's totally free. I also will link it in the description, and you'll be able to just get started, because sometimes the hardest thing really is to just start. So I have a completely free guide just to get you thinking about how to start losing weight today. Now, speaking of that, this week's episode is all about what to do when the scale goes up, what we should and should not do when we gain weight. Now, this is a very timely topic for me because I have recently put on a little bit of weight, and I actually found myself, despite, having lost my weight, despite having, been working on my thoughts about my weight and my body for a good 5 or 6 years now, I found myself spiraling. I found my brain going to that place of, oh my gosh, here we go again. The scale's just going to keep going up. And I started to panic a little bit. And I think that that is a very natural human reaction for women to have when we see the scale going up. We start to be fearful that we've lost control and that we're going to gain all of the weight we lost back. That's why I really wanted to record this episode and hang out with you today and talk about this, because I know that if I'm going through this after years of working on these thoughts, that probably some of you have been in this situation too and could really benefit from a little bit of guidance, because what I was able to do was rein those thoughts in and find a path forward. And that's what this episode is all going to be about, because we've all been there. We've all watched the number on the scale go up, or we've felt our clothes getting tighter and we've been thinking, oh my gosh, I might need to get a bigger size, or I might need to go and buy clothes. And then, as I mentioned, our brain can just keep running and running and running. And that's not particularly productive. So I'm going to share with you a very simple 3-step process that you can implement when you gain weight. The first thing that I want you to do, step 1, is to get curious about the number on the scale, or get curious about your clothes getting tighter. Just say, oh, this is interesting. I wonder what's going on here. So instead of jumping to, oh my gosh, I gained weight. Oh my gosh, here we go again. I'm totally out of control. I've been eating so much, or whatever the thoughts may be that you're thinking and that you're having, I want you to work on taking the emotion out of it and getting really curious about the actual facts. What is the number? That's a fact. What have you been eating? That's a fact. How much have you been exercising? That's a fact. When you reflect on the actual facts and you take out all of your emotions and all of your spiraling, then you can start to get clear on what the problem is, if there is even a problem at all. So ask yourself, what's different? Have I been eating more? Have I been exercising less? Have I been riding my bike less? What have I been doing differently? That's it. So think about it more in terms of, I'm going to remove the emotion from the situation. I'm going to stop beating myself up. I'm going to stop spiraling. I'm going to stop thinking like, oh my gosh, I did it again, and I'm just going to gain all the weight back, and then I'm going to have so much more work to do. No, we're not going to do any of that. That's just not useful. It would be one thing if any of that actually worked, but it doesn't. All it does is get our brains into fight and flight mode, panic mode, and all it does is make us want to give up because it's so overwhelming. Instead, just get really curious. Think, what time of the month is it? Am I going through perimenopause? Am I going through menopause? Am I experiencing hormonal changes right now? Maybe I need to be a little bit more gentle with myself just because of that. Have I been eating differently? Have I been exercising differently? What's going on in my life? Am I more stressed? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I drinking enough water? Because when you start to kind of think about, okay, what am I doing differently that may have possibly led to this weight gain? Then you can start to come up with what is step number 2, which is a reasonable plan to assess the issue and assess the problem. When I started thinking about, in step 1, getting curious about the number on the scale, I really didn't have to go too far, personally, because there is stuff going on with me. I do believe I'm in perimenopause, so I do believe I have hormonal changes that are functioning. I have started some hormone replacement therapy, and that will be another episode for sure. That is not something that I can even begin to go into right now. And it's also something I've started recently, so I don't really feel like I have enough data yet to share with you. So I know that that's going on. Additionally, I know that I have been eating more and that I have been moving my body less in this season. So this is baseball season. My son plays baseball. We have 3 games a week. He also has baseball lessons. He has drums. This is a season of the year and a season of my life where I have a lot going on in terms of my child's activities. And I love it. So I'll be really honest with you. There are times when I just don't want to do any of it, for sure. But overall, I really love going to his games. I really love being a part of the baseball community in our town. I'm on the Little League board and I help out with their social media. So I love all of that stuff. It can get to be a lot. It can get to be really overwhelming. And I have at this season, especially in the spring, I've been eating more. There have been days where, we've been out for a good chunk of the evening. I've had to eat dinner really early. By the time we get home at 8:30 at night, I'm hungry and I want to eat again. And I've been letting myself do that. I don't know if that's the right terminology to use, letting myself, but I think, I guess I've been letting myself do what I feel like I need to do during this season. And if it means that I'm gaining a little bit of weight right now, that's okay. But there are probably some things that I can do about it. So anyway, the idea here is that I want to come up with a reasonable plan, and you want to come up with a reasonable plan when you gain weight to address the issue, the problem, if there even is one. Because when you remove the emotion from the situation, you may realize that there actually isn't a problem. You may realize, I do tend to gain weight at this time of month. Or you may realize, I am taking different medication. I am getting less sleep. Like but there's not really a lot I can do about certain things right now, and that's okay. Because at some point there will be more that you can do. So just be really kind of curious about the situation. Ask yourself, what's different? And be very open to just looking at the facts. Instead of judging yourself, instead of beating yourself up, instead of saying, oh my gosh, here we go again. How could you have messed this up so badly? Instead of thinking that, what if you think, Interesting. That number's interesting. My clothes being tight, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what's going on with that right now. I wonder if there's something different. When you're just curious about it and you remove the emotion, then it becomes less of an emergency because gaining a little bit of weight is not an emergency. And I've had conversations with women about this before. One of my cycling friends actually pushed back a little bit, and I really appreciated that. She said to me, no, it kind of is an emergency. In my particular situation, given my health, given my background, if I gain weight, it's actually an emergency. And I said, okay, I understand why you feel that way. But is thinking that way really helpful to you? Is it really helpful to think this is emergency, this is awful, this is horrible, this is terrible? Or is that just stressing you out? Is it leading to you taking action? Or is it just making you feel bad? So that's why getting curious about it is so, so helpful. Like, I know I've been eating more, and I know I've been moving my body less. And I know that when I alter those things, my weight will come off again. Okay? So that's what I want you to think about it. So step 1 is to get curious about what's happening and what's going on in your body. And then step 2 is to come up with a reasonable plan for addressing the issue, whatever the issue may be. And again, it might be to do nothing, because it's possible that what is happening right now is totally normal. It's a part of your normal body fluctuations, and it's not an emergency, and it doesn't necessarily require a plan. However, if when you're curious about it, you realize, oh, I have been eating more. I have been exercising less. I know that at this season, there isn't a whole lot that I can do about it, but what is something reasonable that I could do? Is there something like small? Is there something reasonable at this season that I could do to address this? And how am I going to conduct myself when my circumstances change? So your plan may be, I might be able to do X, Y, and Z right now, and that's not as much as I would like to do, but that's what I have the bandwidth for. You know, for example, in my situation, I probably could eat less for dessert every night, meaning that I realized when I was reflecting on this that a lot of times I'm not actually hungry for either dessert at all, or I'm not hungry for the quantity of dessert that I've been eating, but I've been feeling a little bit overscheduled, I guess you would say, and I feel a little bit entitled. And so I've been feeling like I deserve it. I feel like I deserve a special treat. And really, what I deserve is to have the life and the body that I want. What I deserve is to live a long time in a healthy way. And is a little bit of extra dessert right now going to keep that from happening? Probably not. However, do I really need it? So these are the kinds of conversations that I would like you to have with yourself. And so in terms of coming up with a reasonable plan, my plan is to eat a little bit less, because I know that I've been eating a little bit more and that it has been leading to some weight gain. My eating habits have been leaning more towards emotional eating as opposed to eating to feel good and eating to feel strong. So that's something that I have decided that I absolutely can do right now. Can I ride my bike as much as I would want to right now, given my schedule? No. But I certainly can eat less. And I know that I'm eating past enough. I know that I'm eating past satisfied. I know that I'm eating more than I actually need. And even though I'm not stuffing myself like I would, 5-10 years ago, I know that I am not necessarily taking the steps that are going to lead to the results that I want. And so my very reasonable plan is to eat a little bit less for dessert right now. It doesn't mean I'm going to cut out dessert completely. It just means that maybe instead of having a piece of cake every night for dessert, I'm going to have a couple of chocolates every night for dessert. Or maybe I'm going to have one chocolate. Or maybe if I'm not hungry for dessert, I'm not going to have dessert at all. So those are the things that I'm thinking about right now in terms of a reasonable plan. So be honest with yourself about what's going on with you and your body and do what you can to change it. Kind of going along with that, I noticed that during the second half of my cycle, I wasn't sleeping very well. That's why I started taking hormone replacement therapy, was so that I could sleep better during the second half of my cycle. Could that possibly lead to a little bit of weight gain? I'm not really sure. Because I'm also overeating, it could be that my weight gain has nothing to do with the hormone replacement therapy whatsoever. So I'm going to take some small, doable actions to address the issue. And that's step number 3. Take small, doable action and test and find out what is and is not working. It's really that simple. We overcomplicate weight gain so much, and it does not need to be complicated. When you start taking small, doable, reasonable steps towards addressing the weight gain without emotion, without beating yourself up, then you will find yourself getting back on track, both mentally and physically. You're going to start feeling better. You're going to start feeling like you're accomplished because you're taking action. And you're going to start more likely than not seeing the results in your body that you want to see. So instead of thinking, I can't lose weight right now, it's baseball season. That's where my brain goes to. Instead of thinking those sorts of things, instead of focusing on what you can't do, ask yourself what you can. Can I ride as much as I want to right now? No. Can I try to fit in movement throughout my day whenever possible? Absolutely. When my son is at baseball lessons on Wednesday nights, there's a bike trail right next to it. So I can either bring my bike and go for a ride during his lessons, or I can do the easy thing, which is what I've been doing, which is just go for a walk. I only have about a half hour, so I don't want to spend that time, kind of like putting all my biking stuff on. By the time I do all that, I'm probably going to be riding for 15 minutes. But I can do a 30-minute walk or a 25-minute walk. And that's something that I can reasonably do. So ask yourself, what is one small doable thing that you can start doing today to give yourself some momentum to taking care of what you consider to be that issue, either on the scale or with your clothes. And as I've mentioned before, it could very well be that you don't have to do anything, that this weight gain is temporary, that it's based on your hormones, that it's based on, stuff that's completely out of your control and therefore not even worth getting upset about. Does that make sense? Okay, let's recap this simple process. And again, it really truly is that simple. The idea is the first thing you want to do is get curious about it. Don't beat yourself up. Just be like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what's happening here. I wonder why this number is going up. So instead of beating yourself up and giving yourself a hard time, just get curious about the number, get curious about the tighter clothes, and come up with a reasonable plan if there is an issue that you think will help address the issue. So if you know that you've been overeating, then ask yourself what you can do to minimize that. You might not be able to stop it altogether right away, and that's okay. If you notice that you've been moving your body less because of your schedule or for whatever, or lack of motivation, lack of discipline, whatever you decide, then how can you incorporate more movement into your day? What can you do that would be reasonable? Something really simple like going for a walk during lunch. It doesn't have to be long. It just has to get you in the habit of thinking about doing something good for your body. And then once you come up with that reasonable plan, start taking steps to implement it. Small, doable, reasonable steps. Instead of focusing on what you can't do at this season of your life right now, focus on what you can do. What are small, doable things that you can do? And again, keep in mind, there are so many reasons why the number on the scale might be going up. You might be going through hormonal changes. You might be eating more. You might be sleeping less. You might be exercising less. A lot of times what I find I do is I will eat the same amount of food regardless of whether or not I'm moving my body as much. And that is cumulatively over time going to likely lead to weight gain. If I'm eating just as much, but I'm not exercising as much, then that makes a lot of sense. But until I sit down and think about it, I'm not necessarily realizing, oh, I'm eating more food than I actually need right now. I'm eating past enough just because that's the amount of food that I was in the habit of eating when I was more active. So those are just some really kind of simple ways that you can get curious about what's happening, come up with a doable plan that addresses what you think the problem is, and then be opening to testing and finding out and seeing what actually seems to work for you. And this is the hard part, my friend. You're going to probably have to give it some time. So if you've been overeating for, say, 3 months, and for 1 week you stop overeating, it's possible that you'll lose some weight in that week. It's actually pretty likely that you'll lose some weight in that week, but you might not, depending on what other things are going on. And also keep in mind that it took you 3 months to put the weight on or for your clothes to get tighter. So it might take at least that long for it to change because you're changing your habits and it's going to take some time for your body to catch up. So you kind of have to be patient, even though I know that that can be really difficult. So you just want to test and find out what works for you when you gain weight. And managing your thoughts about it is probably the most important part of all of this. What we think in this particular instances, a lot of times is so much more important than what we do, because our thoughts are going to lead to the actions that support the goals and the outcomes that we want. And when we're thinking like, oh my gosh, I screwed up, like I gained so much weight, here we go again, the things that we do based on those kinds of thoughts are not likely going to be very helpful or useful. And if you do find yourself doing things to lose weight in that situation from those thoughts, chances are those things you're doing are not going to be sustainable. This is not the time to go on a crash diet. This is not the time to start riding your bike a bazillion miles because you feel like you have to solve the problem immediately. This is the time to just take a step back, take a deep breath, and take small, doable actions to bring yourself and your body and your mind back to where you want them to be. Okay? Thank you so much for being here for another episode of the Biking Wellness Podcast. If you have a moment and can rate and review the podcast, it's so helpful. I love reading your reviews and I read them on the air and give little shout outs, and I'd love to read yours. So thanks again for being here, for joining us. And until next time, my friend, ride on. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Biking Wellness Podcast. Be sure to head on over to sassy.com/guide, SASCY.com/guide, to get my completely free Lose Weight Biking Quick Start Guide so that you can get started with simple, doable weight loss today. That's SASCY.com/guide.